Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your Parliament experience thus far. I've been thoroughly inspired by sessions that I have been a part of previously, and we are so delighted that you have joined us today. I'm going to do a quick screen share here to begin our presentation. So we hope you have found yourself to the right place here at what is the 2 o'clock hour in the Eastern time zone. This breakout session is Authentic Interfaith Youth Engagement. We're so very excited to share with you a little bit about the programming that the Kaufman Interfaith Institute at Grand Valley State University has undertaken to do our darndest to empower, resource, and offer a platform to young leaders in our community who are really at the forefront of changing the world, even here locally in West Michigan. So we're excited that you have come here to hear a little bit from my coworkers, Zahabi and I, but mostly to hear from 4 of our teen leaders and of their vision for what community work and interfaith engagement can look like. So just by way of some introductions, I'll go first, and Zahabi, I'll offer you to introduce yourself. My name is Kyle Clears. I am the Associate Director of the Kaufman Interfaith Institute at Grand Valley State University.
Everyone, my name is Atif Usmani, and I am a program manager at the Kaufman Interfaith Institute.
So just an outline for our time together. We've begun with some introductions. I'm going to give you a brief overview as to what the Kaufman Institute does, what we do, how we exist, so on and so forth. And then we're going to delve into our Interfaith Forward programming. So looking at 2 of our key programs by which we do some of those, that empowerment, resourcing, platform development, work with our teen leaders. And then most importantly, the main event, we're going to hear from, again, our high school leaders as they share their visions for our community. And then we'll be monitoring the Q&A and the chat throughout. So if you have any questions for us, but more importantly, if you have any questions for our leaders who are here with us today, feel welcome to drop those in the Q&A. So the Kaufman Interfaith Institute is a part of the Division of Inclusion and Equity at Grand Valley State University, and it's a rich part of the history of interfaith dialogue in West Michigan. In promoting interfaith understanding and mutual respect, the Kaufman Institute offers a broad range of programming, over 200 initiatives each year, that seek to create a more inclusive and equitable West Michigan community for persons of diverse cultural, religious, spiritual, and secular identities. The spirit of the Kaufman Interfaith Institute is represented in the cooperative programs held in the community to enlighten, to inform, and promote inclusivity. These events bring together diverse voices and worldview traditions to find common ground, to foster interfaith cooperation, and to elevate individual experiences and stories. Whether it's working in the community, working with others in the community, to host a healthy discussion about polarizing issues, or organizing celebrations that welcome and encourage learning through difference, the Institute has found great success in carrying out its mission through these vital community collaborations.
So I would share with you a little bit about the philosophy that led us to launch our youth programming. It was really quite simple. Through our work at Grand Valley State University on campus with undergraduate students, we noticed that there were students that were not arriving on campus that were not culturally competent or interactions with people who were different from them. So our mission with launching these programs was to promote cross-cultural dialogue and interfaith understanding for students ages 13 to 18 in our community, because these students are ready for these conversations, and they're also experiencing a lot of things in school and high school with stereotypes, discrimination, or misinterpretations of their identity. With the help of the interfaith community partners that we had founded through the Kaufman Interfaith Institute and educators, we launched our Interfaith Service Day camps 3 years ago. And later on, 1 year after those started, we launched a co-curricular Interfaith Leadership Scholars Program. Our programs rely heavily on the partnerships we have throughout the community for their success. Everything from visiting sacred sites to service project sites to speakers, experiences, or activities. Our work would truly not be possible without the foundation of established community collaborations that have been already laid by the Kaufman Interfaith Institute. Also, through the youth programming, our existing partnerships were able to flourish, and some new partnerships were even developed through the opportunity to work with youth in our community. Ultimately, we would like to see youth from our scholars programs on equal interfaith leaders that make up our Interfaith Council. The Interfaith Council are clergy, nonprofit leaders, and other engaged community members to advise and to set the direction of the Kaufman Interfaith Institute moving forward. All right, so what I'll do is I'll take a moment to sort of go into the two programs that I've mentioned. Before I turn it over to our wonderful panelist. So as I said, we launched our summer day camps 3 years ago, and with COVID, we had to kind of put a pause last year since a lot of students were still not comfortable meeting in person, and our partner that usually hosts us was. So the Kaufman Interfaith Institute has run 2 successful years of day camp. The first year was 1 week, and the second year consisted of 2 weeks of day camps. These are service day camps, and the programs operate independently of each. We have the Kaufman Interfaith Service Day Camps, and we have the Kaufman Scholars Program, and both the programs that we offer operate independently of each other. The Youth Service Day Camps are 2 separate weeks of day camps. The first week is an intro to interfaith and understanding focus. Students visit sacred sites, engage in service activities, and learn the basics of interfaith cooperation in a fun and interactive way. The second week of day camp takes a deeper dive into interfaith engagement by centering folks from a particular tradition. They come to call West Michigan their home. So we might visit the Bosnian Mosque and Cultural Center to learn about what the faith of Islam means to this community, as well as the impact of their arrival as refugees in West Michigan. Focus primarily on students that are 8th to 12th grade. Then, a year after the summer service day camps, we launched the Interfaith Scholars Program, the Leadership Scholars Program for 8th to 12th grade students. These students meet bi-weekly for about every week to build leadership skills, interfaith competency, engage in interfaith action, and learn about issues of intersectional identity. They culminate their year, or their first semester of learning, and culminate their year of learning with initiated leadership projects that impact our community. And these projects are driven and developed by the students themselves. In the future, Kaufman would like an alumni connections program. This program, we really, as students leave our program, the scholars and the day camp, they look for a place that they can then connect into. And much of our full-time programming that we do throughout the year is not the perfect fit for them. So in the future, we would love to do something where we connect these alums and help them with mentorship, network opportunities. All right, now it is time for us to introduce our wonderful youth panel. We have Emma Johns, who is an 11th grader here in West Michigan. We have who is a 12th grader here in Michigan, McKenzie Rogers, who is a 12th grader here in Michigan, and Atif Usmani, who is an 11th grader in Michigan, in West Michigan. Each of these students is going to take a moment to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into the panel.
Hello, my name is Emma Johns. Like Sahabia said, I am an 11th grader here in Michigan. I am Jewish. Specifically, I am a part of the Reform movement. I go to Temple Emmanuel here in Grand Rapids. This is my second year as a part of the Kaufman Scholars. And other than that, I play ice hockey in lacrosse, and I'm a big part of my local youth group.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vishnu Mano. I'm a junior at City High Middle School and a follower of Hinduism. I love practicing the violin, singing Indian Carnatic music, and playing basketball. I'm also a member of my school's debate team during my free time. When I'm not working on extracurriculars, I'm usually skateboarding or hanging out with friends.
Hello, my name is McKenzie Rogers. My pronouns are she, her. I am currently a senior in high school, and while I don't identify with any particular religion, I do consider myself to be a very spiritual person. And in my free time, I love to travel, advocate for environmental and racial justice, and spend time in nature.
Hello, my name is Atif. I live in West Michigan and I'm a junior this year. I'm a practicing Sunni Muslim and I value compassion, solidarity, and kindness within Islam. I play basketball for my school in the winter and run track in the spring. And outside of school, I enjoy composing music, selling shoes, and spending time with my family.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Zahabia, if it's all right with you, I will start by asking our first question to kick off our time. So thinking about your time working and participating in our programs, which Kaufman programs have you participated in? And in what ways has that affected your life, if at all?
So in my community, I live in a suburb of Grand Rapids, and if you look up the religious composition, it is 0.00% Jewish. So somewhere in those decimals is me and my family. Me and my sister are the only Jews in my high school, and that can feel pretty isolating. It can be difficult to feel like you have a community around you when there's really no one quite like you. And so through working with the Kaufman Scholars like I have last year and this year, it has just given me this community of people who understand what it feels like to feel a little isolated, to feel a little bit different than everyone else. And it's not only that solidarity, but it's an opportunity to learn and to feel like I can make an impact in my community so that kids in the future don't feel as isolated as I have in the past.
Thank you, Emma.
So I participated in the first session of the summer day camp back in 2018 and have been a part of the Kaufman Interfaith Leadership Scholars Program for the past 2 years. These Kaufman programs have been some of the most rewarding activities I've had the fortune to participate in. Being an interfaith scholar has helped me improve my leadership skills, learn about the different religions represented within my community, and understand the intricate socio-political issues that plague our society today. The Scholars Program has also influenced my participation in other extracurricular activities. The leadership skills I've gained from the Kaufman Program have helped me volunteer as a student ambassador at my school, mentoring younger students and getting new students accustomed to the school. The lessons I've learned about systemic racism, inequity, and religious discrimination through the Kaufman Interfaith Leadership Scholars Program have impacted the speeches I deliver and the arguments I advance during speech and debate competitions. This program has helped me build the skills I need to become a better leader, as well as enabled me with the resources needed to help my community.
Thank you, Vishnu.
I have been a member of Interfaith for 3 years, and specifically Kaufman for 2. Kaufman has helped me grow into the person that I am today. It's helped me to better understand others and become more open-minded and receptive in all situations. I'm now better able to understand others and find unity in diversity. And Kaufman has also inspired me to start events at my own school to promote religious inclusion and acceptance within my community.
Thanks, McKenzie.
So I've participated in both Kaufman Youth Service day camps and have been a member of Kaufman Youth Scholars every year as well. Through the day camps, I was able to meet an amazing group of students, all different ages and religious traditions, and I was able to visit different places of worship and see how they practice their religion. I gained respect for the religious values and built connections with people I would have never met before. This was also a time where I could show others how I practice my own religion as a Muslim and share it with my peers who wanted to learn more about Islam. Through the Scholars Program, we were able to create projects based off what we think was needed in our community. And last year, for example, we made an interview video with students and religious leaders. And this year we plan on sharing them with high schools and middle schools to show students different religious backgrounds and how people practice their religion in West Michigan. These Kaufman programs have allowed me to take initiative in issues I'm passionate about and do great work for our community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Atif. And again, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you all. We had a few technical difficulties, so I just bumped out to a different location. So I feel like a proud mom right now because I've known you all for so long, and I wish everyone knew you because you're such amazing students. But can you share a little bit about why you all feel like interfaith and cross-cultural engagement is an important conversation to have with students your age?
I would say that speaking about interfaith and cross-cultural engagement is extremely important, especially when by engaging in interfaith dialogue, we're able to teach students that our differences don't have to be what creates division, but instead can be celebrated. And I think that these conversations are vital in creating a safer and more rich future for upcoming generations.
I know in high school, really, the main point is to kind of find yourself. And I know a lot of times these difficult conversations with interfaith and cross-cultural engagement, there are difficult conversations. And I know sometimes we want to wait to have those conversations until we're a lot older. But when you're in high school and when you're this age, you are finding yourself. And so through having these conversations and this dialogue, we are allowing students to find themselves within their own communities and also welcome other people and learn about others. And so starting now is so important and a lot better than just waiting years down the road.
I also believe interfaith and cross-cultural engagement directly affects students attending school and living as minorities in their community. The opinions of youth are sometimes neglected, but should definitely be considered as they are engaging in conversations about religion and sometimes defending their own religion at school. Students are able to build unique perspectives and as they're practicing their religion and balancing it with their cultural norms of where they're from.
It's powerful. I'm just so very grateful for all of you. So our next question, what advice would you give? Well, we'll just preface this by saying there are many different individuals, organizations, congregations, entities around the world that are participating in this conference. And I think a lot of us, and I will lump Kaufman in with everybody else at the Parliament, is asking this question of what does the next generation of this look like? This interfaith cooperation thing, this multi-faith engagement thing, this cross-cultural bridge building work. What will that look like in the years ahead? And so for us and for everybody else that's a part of this conference, what advice would you give to organizations looking to empower young leaders?
So in order to empower young leaders, organizations need to understand what common traits young leaders have that are not as prevalent amongst leaders in different age groups. So young leaders in general are willing to be uncomfortable. We see intersectionality as a key to change. We know the difference between being an ally and being an accomplice to a cause. And we recognize the daily opportunity to make change. The most important thing that we have is that we're symbolic of the future. So these are all things that the Kaufman Interfaith programs have taught us and reminded us about constantly. We've discussed the necessity of having uncomfortable conversations. You know, the only way to be impactful is to be uncomfortable, and in a world that is more divided socially, politically, and economically than we ever remember, we realize that these uncomfortable conversations need to be made in order to bring change. Intersectionality is also something that Kaufman's programs have taught us about. So for those of you who don't know, intersectionality is the idea that classifications like race, gender, religion, and class don't have to exist separate from each other. Instead, they can intersect to form an individual identity. Kaufman has also shown us the difference between being an ally and being an accomplice to the same cause. So being an ally involves a retweet on Twitter, a post on Instagram, or attendance at a few marches for activism. But being an accomplice means having those uncomfortable and tough conversations with leaders, discussing the changes that need to be made with the people who have the power to make change, and recognize the key people who are affected by an issue and give them a voice, even if it means sacrificing your own privilege. Trait of young leaders that I talked about, our recognition of our title as the future, is perhaps the most important one. There's only a short amount of time until the youth of today become the voting population of tomorrow. We understand the importance of why we need to learn and exhibit leadership skills, and why we need to practice having those tough conversations, and why we need to make change. We also need to ensure, to the best of our ability as youth, that our world is a safe space for all people, regardless of their unique attributes that make up their identity. So all of this to say that young leaders have these traits because of the social and cultural circumstances we've gone through. Organizations who are looking to empower young leaders should help us by reinforcing our values, finding a focused vision to pursue, training our leadership skills, and truly understanding what we bring to the table, both as a result of our age as well as our experiences. As of 2021, 25% of the world's population are millennials and 32% are Gen Z. There's an entire generation of young leaders who are willing to be uncomfortable, understand the importance of intersectionality, act as accomplices rather than allies, and embrace their title as the future. Thanks.
Well, that was beautifully said. So I can only, I guess, you know, in a world that is so big, that is so connected, it can feel so easy to sink underneath it and feel like your voice, especially as a teenager, you know, like I just learned to drive a little while ago. Like it's like it can feel so difficult to feel like we have a voice and an impact. So something organizations can do to make youth leaders feel empowered is just to show them that there is a community of people who are there and who want to help them succeed in the things that they want to see in the world. And that's what's so great with Sahabia and Kyle and the rest of Kaufman is it gives us that step stool to be able to reach what we want to do. It shows us that there are people who are going to help us get there. So just giving accepts them, and where they feel safe being vulnerable and learning is the best step to help empower our youth.
All right, everyone. That was, I mean, both of you spoke from your heart, and you can tell that each of you is so passionate about this work, which we are so grateful for. Like it really shows in the thoughtfulness of your responses, and just I hope through Emma's passion that organizations around the world realize that youth are wanting this in their hearts, and I hope his guidance that they can see the steps and the things that they could harness and create in their community. You really laid it out for them, Vishnu. You were like, here's what you need to do and here's why. All right. The theme for the 2021 Parliament, opening our hearts to the world, compassion in action. Have you seen hearts opened or compassion take action through Kaufman's interfaith programs? And we're going to have 3 of our students answer this one.
Okay. So an example of this that I saw through Kaufman was the first day camp. So in the first day camp, Kaufman hosted many students from different groups of races, religions, and we met for the first time, and the environment on the first day felt kind of quiet and closed off. Throughout the week, students started to warm up to each other and connect similar values outside of their religious identity. And by the end of the week, we were all comfortable sharing our opinions, religious viewpoints, and now I consider them all as close friends. By opening our hearts, we were able to take action together in the issues that we were compassionate about and make a change.
So being raised a Hindu, I've always been reminded that Hinduism is not only a religion, but a way of life, at least for me, that focuses on selflessness, compassion, and dharma, which is duty without expecting an outcome. So this question really reminds me of from the Bhagavad Gita, our holy book. It's actually chapter 12, verse 13. And although this isn't a direct translation, it doesn't do it justice at all. The implied meaning of this verse is a true person, like a good person, does not feel hatred for any being, but has compassion for all, without the thoughts of I and mine. So as a Hindu, showing compassion and being selfless or altruistic are integral parts of our daily lives. It's a part of our dharma. And Kaufman's interfaith programs have truly helped me open my heart to the world, and they've given me a platform to show compassion to others in my community. So when the COVID-19 pandemic hit back in March of 2020, the scholars worked on a technology drive to collect computers, tablets, and Chromebooks. This technology was then donated to the members of our community's Roosevelt Park neighborhood to help people who were isolated during the pandemic connect with the outside world. In the fall and winter of 2020, we actually read and analyzed a book called Stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kennedy, which outlined the racial issues the world has seen, not only times, but since the beginning of slavery. Introducing this book to the youth in the Scholars Program was extremely helpful for us to understand the complex racial problems that had come to light in the previous year, and it allowed us to show compassion for our fellow Americans who were being oppressed by our own justice system through issues that still exist today, like implicit bias both within the government and within individuals. It allowed us to empathize with the African American population. And although I will never truly understand what it's like to be Black in America, this book helped me comprehend the magnitude of the problems they go through on a daily basis. Kaufman's interfaith programs have always been about helping youth identify the religions represented in their communities. However, these programs have often relied on larger and broader themes like empathy and compassion to drive the work that we do. The service projects we lead and the discussions we have don't necessarily come from a desire to learn more about religions, but rather from the need to be compassionate with the members of our community. Thank you.
I think it's evident to see that I'm surrounded by some very compassionate individuals, and I've seen my own heart open immensely through my experience within Interfaith. And the topics that we work on are all catalysts for compassion, as Vishnu discussed. And by learning about other cultures, traditions, and belief systems, we are better able to understand all individuals and take care of them in that way. And through my own heart's opening through scholars, I've been able to share my experiences and the lessons that I've learned with those in my community and those close to me. And I think that's a really important thing to be able to take away from scholars, is just the depth that we go into and being able to just share commonality with other people. And that really teaches compassion to all of us, I feel. And I think that it's something that we should look to do in all aspects of our life.
Beautifully said, you all. Again, I'll just reiterate how grateful we are that you are able to share your gifts with the world in the way that you do. Thus ends the section of the program where our panelists know what questions are going to come at them. I wanted to read you all a message that we received in the chat, and at the end of this message is a question for you all. And we'll just kind of toss it up. Whoever wants to take it first can go for it, but you are all welcome to respond. Sarah writes and says, "This is so wonderful to hear your stories. Thank you for sharing. It's bringing back memories as my interfaith journey began through a similar program to yours here in South Africa. I'm curious, have you seen the impact of this program on your families and on the wider community?"
I can say for my family, you know, like I said earlier, me and my sister are the only Jews in my high school. And not only just through projects like this and groups like these, but just from my experience talking to my friends or talking to other people in my classes, it has definitely opened up a dialogue that I didn't really know my school could have or my classmates could have. And through the work that all the rest of my peers do in their schools, I imagine, I hope that that's true for the rest of you.
Thank you, Emma.
I can add on as well. I would say that in my family, there's definitely been an impact through my work in interfaith, and I'm sure they all get sick of me talking so much about it. But I think that interfaith is the way of the future, and pluralism as well, just being able to accept everyone for who they are and not trying to push our beliefs on others, but instead accept people for who they are and where they're at. Beauty within that and the beauty within our diversity. And I speak a lot about this with my family, and I think it has kind of had an impact on them, which I love to see. And within my community, I think that it's driven me to work on projects that I'm very passionate about that involve interfaith. And through that, I've been able to kind of reach out to some people and make a difference in their lives, because this is something that they've been looking for that they didn't have the words for, and something I also had been looking for that I didn't know really existed until I found interfaith and scholars and found a place to have these conversations.
Thank you, McKenzie.
I can add on to that as well. My brother, actually, he's a part of the Kaufman Interfaith Scholars Program as well. And it's interesting having a sibling go through the same curriculum you're going through, because instead of talking about relatively trivial things like Legos or basketball, our conversations have turned a lot more serious now, or meaningful. We talk about religious or racial injustices a lot. And we talk about the work we do through Kaufman and how each of us interpret it on our own. And just having somebody to, share this experience with has been a lot of fun. It's helped me draw more meaning from this entire program.
Thank you, Vishnu.
I would definitely agree with all the scholars that Kaufman has allowed me to jump into more conversations and others when I hear something that's controversial or something I disagree with. It's allowed me to speak up for others.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just add, as Vishnu kind of alluded to in a previous answer, during the most salient part of the start of the pandemic in March and April of 2020 here in Grand Rapids, our group of interfaith scholars created two working groups, one community engagement and the other rectifying false narratives, both of which were coming alongside of very vulnerable communities in our city, communities that were not system supported, persons who, for one reason or another, were unable to access or find their way to the different programs and support structures that were in place for many of the rest of us. And so these teen leaders were really at the forefront of bringing together 501c3 nonprofits, organizations, volunteers to help address some of the nuances, especially experienced by those in poverty during the start of COVID-19. I shouldn't say that. I should say when COVID-19 really became a noticeable thing here for us in West Michigan.
One of the people in the chat kind of talked about how the future looks bright with you all. And I just have to reiterate that, because I'm actually tearing up. That's why I keep turning my camera off, because I'm just so moved by you guys. So All right, I'm going to compose myself and ask the next question. Can each of you share a learning or friendship making moment in an interfaith space? Does that question make sense? Okay.
Me and McKenzie go to the same high school, and I had never met her before. I don't think I'd ever heard of her even, and it was so when we both ended up joining Kaufman and realizing that we went to the same high school, it was so cool because you suddenly realize that, a place where you didn't know if there were other people who valued this or who wanted to learn more about this, that they were there too. So getting to meet her and continue to talk with her and learn with her has been great. And it gives me a lot of hope for my school and my classmates. And my sister didn't know about Kaufman before, and I joined and has since been a little jealous because she joined because she's seen the connections I've made. And not only does that, make my relationship with her stronger because we have that to share, but it just shows the joy that these relationships bring.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, like I said in my opening our hearts question, the Kaufman Day Camp allowed me to meet so many people from different religions. I was able to meet multiple people from the Baha'i tradition, which I probably would never have met before. And all the scholars here, it's allowed me to meet so many different religions, and I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I can add on to that. It's been 3 years working with Kaufman, going to the day camps. A lot of the people who are now in our scholars program have been with me through these 3 years. So that's allowed us to become very, very close friends. But what adds more meaning to these relationships is what we actually talk about. Because of course we're friends. We talk about regular things, but the meaningful conversations we have definitely bring us closer together. So even the people who I've only met for just a couple weeks or 1 year still are some of my closest friends because of what we talk about. So I feel like this youth program, the Kaufman Interfaith Scholars Program, has definitely helped me build these very strong connections.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as far as learning goes, I would say that Kaufman has taught me a lot about what's out there and has given me a lot of hope. Like Emma said, we go to the same high school, and it's a very closed off community, and one that I wouldn't have known previously to my interfaith experience, that other people would be open to the same ideas as me. And seeing Emma being interested and my friends also being interested really gives me a lot of hope. And I think that that's something that I've learned that has given me a lot to think about for the future. And I think that the relationships that we build through this experience help me to go out into my everyday life and build those connections and build those same relationships with people that I often wouldn't seek out, because I think that it's helped me to see that there are a lot more people that are open than you might think, and having those conversations may be difficult or awkward, but having them is also very helpful, not only to the community as a whole, but to that person and to yourself, even if it's not a entirely positive conversation. I think that being able to just listen openly and not argue, but instead just be receptive of each other and have that respect between individuals is really powerful. And that's something that I've learned through Kaufman and been able to utilize in my own life.
Mm-hmm. So I think we have one last question for you as our time kind of winds to an end, but I really quick want to acknowledge Milt asked the question in the Q&A. As you learn more about interfaith, do you ever discuss the ethical shortfalls that are inherent in modern cultures and how religions might in part be responsible? So you'll see some heads nodding there, Milt. I'll just say that a large part of the conversations we have explore tribalism, polarity, and extremism as they exist across all traditions and cultures. And through this program, not only do we kind of look to unpack why that happens, but also to again, find healing and empathy ways of combating that. So to the last question to you all, as some in the chat have asked about curriculums for programs like this, getting something like this started in their communities. For people who are maybe looking to get a youth program off the ground, what would you suggest are important or meaningful things to include or offer for students of your age?
I think one of the most, it sounds a little lame, but it really is, being flexible. As students, we are juggling 12 different things on the same day at the 4 different times. It can be crazy, and there's so many things that we want to do and we want to accomplish. So I think just having in mind that there's a lot going on for us, but maybe just being flexible. I know not a lot of us are massive fans of Zoom, but it is great in connecting people and just allowing those conversations to happen, even if you're not near each other. So
my main thing that I got out of Kaufman, especially during my first year in the day camp, was learning more about different religions. That's what really pulled me closer to these conversations, just understanding the different faiths that were represented within my community. Because being Hindu, I knew like 2 religions or 3 religions that were in my community, and that's it. I didn't realize our Grand Rapids, the city where we live, is so diverse. So I think definitely if you're going to start like a interfaith youth program, it is extremely essential to definitely take field trip. The opposite of what Emma is saying, but definitely do that as well. But go to these religious places, talk to the people who follow that religion, learn their traditions, because that's the only way you can see how other people within your same community live on a daily basis. It was just very insightful for me to see that, and I think it would be beneficial for other students as well.
Thank you, Vishnu.
I agree with Vishnu entirely. I think that site visits and being a part of those experiences is very impactful. And my involvement in world religions as a class in my high school is what kind of got me into interfaith in the first place. And I think like Vishnu said previously to an earlier question, with the idea of us wanting to be uncomfortable, I think that's very accurate. And I think that that's something that's widely felt by a lot of people that have similar opinions to us in this regard, is that we want to be uncomfortable, we want to grow, and in order to grow, you need to be uncomfortable. And so even advertising that, like, this is an opportunity for growth, this is an opportunity for you to actually engage in activism, this is something that you can do to feel like you're making a difference, because I think that's what a lot of youth like us are looking for, is just an opportunity to be a part of something that's really a catalyst for change.
Thank you so much, McKenzie.
Yeah, I agree with all the scholars. They had good comments. I believe Kaufman had a scholarship program as well. Just financial aid for joining the group programs is really important, and I feel like it opened up more students to being able to join these. If you're thinking about starting that internship program.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Atif. And I will say that, again, as we're doing this cross-cultural, multi-faith, multi-experience, multi-background work, ensuring accessibility and eliminating as many barriers as possible to student participation is really key. So you heard Atif talk about our scholarship program, even down to scheduling. I'm going to real quick share screen here, just so you can see our contact information. But again, I just want to thank all of our scholars for being with us today. I'm so very grateful for your leadership, and we are inspired by your example. We're excited to see what you will do for our world, because it will be great. So to all of you who joined us, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your Parliament experience. Feel welcome to reach out or connect with us. We'd be happy to talk more. Take care and have a wonderful day.